Welcome to Up Close and Personal on MalcolmPresents.com, a streaming, I can say screaming, a streaming platform heard round the world, and I go this and beyond. And today, our special guest is Jay Leslie, master musician, whatever the hell that means. Anyway, Jay, welcome aboard.
Hello, glad to be here.
Hi.
Right,
Tell me something about yourself that you think our audience should know about you that nobody else knows.
that nobody else knows. Wow.
Okay, forget about that one. No.
No, people ask me, my what did how did I really get started for real in the music business? Performing, playing, being in a band.
Tell me.
And I started playing clarinet in third grade when I was 7, and then graduated to the saxophone at age 12, and started working actually around when I was 13 or 14.
In the
My mother,
Catskills?
up in the Catskills and in Brooklyn and around. My mother was working for a time at that time as a technician in the cardiopulmonary lab of Maimonides Medical Center. She she had this chemicals. She forged my working papers and
Wow.
made me 18 so I could work. And the Catskills, God bless all those places, the little Lane bungalows on up to the Concord and Grossinger's and the well-known hotels, because as many of the comics from that era, and as a matter of fact, I think it was George Burns who said, what was great about it was the last place you can go and be bad, but learn and then go back. So I played up in the Catskills, and every night when I was in the house band, every night or every weekend at least, we would have to cut a different show, play for a different performer.
Yeah, most of the people that I know that became musicians, and I ask them why, is they say it's the best way to attract women.
Yeah. Well, number one, I'll tell you the God's honest truth. I wanted to escape the summers in New York City, the
Yeah.
heat, the humidity. You know, I was I was past my going to day camp phase. I wasn't interested in going to camp. I wasn't interested in going to sleepaway camp or anything like that. So I wanted to work. And I started to work a little bit with local groups and bands in Brooklyn. And one of them said, we got this chance to go up and play at this hotel for the summer.
Which one? May I ask? You remember?
I think it was the Swan Lake Hotel
No,
in
okay.
Kiamisha. Oh no, Swan Lake.
It's one like that was actually my first job as a busboy. It was a small, it was like a Jewish rest home. It was called the Wilshire Hotel. It was the only hotel I ever worked at that announced breakfast at 7:30 in the morning and stay away from the doors because
Oh,
all it was like a senior citizens resident. The doors would open up and everybody would pour in
uh-huh.
for breakfast at 7:30 in the morning.
Wow, wow.
But anyway,
I didn't make breakfast that often for reasons I won't go into.
yeah, you said that you played a clarinet at the age of 3.
I was in third grade. I was 7,
7, okay.
7.5.
When did you know that you had an aptitude for music? I was talking to your old friend years ago, or not years ago, but Phil
Okay,
Margot.
right.
And he told me that when he would listen to the radio, he could produce the music there. He knew when instruments should come in, instruments should fade. He had that natural ability. Did you feel that when you were in the third grade?
As a matter of fact, yes. It's not something that I really felt, or it wasn't any profound, awakening to me.
Hmm.
It just came. It came very easy.
He was there.
It just came easy. It was like a fish swimming in water. I mean, I picked up the clarinet. I learned a couple of notes the very, very first lesson. I, I ran home. My mother put me on the phone with my clarinet to play these notes to my father at work.
What did the parents do?
My father worked in women's like handbags and hats in the garment district.
Yeah, that's my dad also. It was coats and suits
Oh
and
yeah,
coats, women's
both of
coats.
my both of my grandfathers were cutters
Yeah,
for mainly coats. Coats,
my dad probably knew them.
maybe, maybe. So
I'd have to
anyway,
ask him, but he's been dead 60 years.
yeah. So now I'm 12 years old and I wanna like play songs. So I take up the tenor saxophone,
Hmm.
right? And I start to play tenor sax. And then fast forward a little bit, 2 or 3 years later, I learned a lot of songs. I'm 15. I'm 15 years old and I'm in a band and we get the chance to play. And you've talked about this with the girls, a sock hop at some Jewish center. And the big attraction for the night was they brought in the Shangri-Las, the original Shangri-Las from Queens, Mary Weiss and the Ganser twins.
Mm.
And at the time, remember Walking in the Sand,
Yeah.
like a big record had just hit. And as you know, that particular group, those girls, broke the mold of what the girl groups look like. You know, the groups that Phil and Mitch and Tokens produced, the chiffons, had the party dresses, Leslie Gore sort of look
Yeah.
like that. They're wearing frilly white blouses, black jeans that I swear looked like they were painted on them. They were so tight, and motorcycle boots. And that was like their image. And like I was just awed by that. And in a way, I tell people I became a man that night. And then I started going up to the Catskills for the summers, lying about my age until I was 18 when I didn't
Yeah.
have to. And then I started traveling with a what they at the time would call a show band, like a cabaret act. And we went to Puerto Rico, we went to the Bahamas, Nassau and the Bahamas, 3 years in a row. Uh, we did dates around New York City uh, during the winter, and all this time, like I mentioned before, Lafayette was my uh, neighborhood high school, but I came into the city every day to go to the High School of Performing Arts on 46th Street.
So when did you know that you were going to make this your life work, your life's
I
work?
know I still remember vividly when I'm 15 years old and I'm playing with two guys who I met through my older brother. I have an older brother 3 years older, and at the time he also played. He was a musician. He went to Lafayette, but he played. And I met these two guys. One was a drummer, one was a piano player, and they needed a sax player. And they were rehearsing with my brother in my house one day. And I asked, could I play a tune with you? Could I sit in? And I guess just to be nice to my brother and my mother, they said, okay. So I played. They turn to my brother and they say, could you loan him your union card and your jacket? So I do a New Year's Eve gig. I do a New Year's Eve gig in an apartment on the Upper East Side with these two guys. I got paid 75 bucks.
A
So
fortune.
this is 60 years ago. Yeah, to me, of course.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself as I'm playing some song, I said to myself, this is what I want to do. This is great. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And
And
that's what I knew.
fantastic. I wish it happened to me. At this point, I'm still reinventing myself.
Sure.
I'm still, still doing like this thing of the Zoom casting. This happened to me 2 years ago.
Oh,
When
uh-huh.
actually I became an on-air personality, so to speak. Before
Wow.
that, I was always behind the camera.
I see.
But anyway, where did it go from there? Where did you make your next step where you started, touring with groups or recording in the studio?
I started recording uh, even while I was in high school. uh, with two of my buddies. We formed a little horn section, trombone, trumpet, and myself on tenor sax. And we formed a horn section, and we did a couple of recordings. And then I toured with, like I say, these show bands, these cabaret acts.
Yeah.
And eventually, when I realized in 1972 that all the TV shows were moving to California, all of the record labels were moving to California. So I said to myself, I should move to California because if I go and it doesn't work out, I'll just come back to New York or go somewhere else. But if I don't go at all, I'll always wonder what would have been,
Well,
what would have happened. And I don't want to have that following me. So my little experiment to go out to California lasted 24 years.
what
Actually,
what
way
did you
over.
what did you do out here?
Um, I got into doing session work. Actually, I was a principal clarinetist for a 7 episode series. They ABC, after the success of the movie Animal House with John
Yeah,
Belushi.
that was a great movie.
It was. It really was. So they wanted to do a TV version of it, and that was my first real big, session work. But I just played clarinet on that. It was
What
and,
was the
and
name? What was the name of the series? You remember?
Animal House.
Oh, there was. I don't remember they did an Animal House thing.
Yeah, they only did 6 or 7 shows.
Oh, okay.
But we recorded at the big sound stage at Universal Studios and that iconic building that you see in the photos. And I remember sitting there, and I'm sitting next to other players that I've been reading about and seeing on records and on credits for years. And I've said to myself, I'm warming up. I'm there like an hour before the session starts, and I'm warming up. I'm put my read on, whatever. And I go, I can't allow myself to get intimidated by this. And I'm not going to.
Mhm.
If God didn't want me to be here today, I wouldn't. I
Mhm.
wouldn't be here. So I should be here.
Yeah, but yeah,
And
but you're still a kid in essence. How
I'm
old were
at
you?
that point. I'm 72, 74. I'm in my mid 20s.
Okay, so you were old enough to know what you were doing.
Yeah, but I'm among musicians who have been studio cats,
Yeah.
as they call them, for 10, 20 years.
So,
Um,
so did you get paid on a per session basis, or was there any residuals involved? Because I know the union wasn't that strong in those days.
well, in TV and film recording, they were.
Or were they?
Every session had a contract. You were on the contract. You had to be. I had dual membership. I'm in Local 802 here in New York City, and to this day, I still have a Local 47 union card in LA. So no matter what happens, if I go out there and somebody needs me, I mean, I could go to work right when I step off the plane.
Mhm.
So, um, one of the highlights, I will tell you this, one of the highlights while I lived full time in LA was playing for 7 nights at the Greek Theater for Cher.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was something.
Uh,
I'll tell you
w-
the truth. She has this image, especially on the TV shows, of this tall, statuesque woman, you know, but she's really a small woman. It's
I
not that she
I
was
didn't realize that.
tall. It's not that she was tall. Number one, she's in those 8-inch heels that Bob Mackie put her in. And number two, Sonny, next to Sonny was a midget.
Midget. Who I thought was tall and slender turns out is like small also is Tina Turner.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
because she was all legs, and when you see her and
Mhm.
the films of her and the tapes of her, she looks like she's about 5'10". I think she was about 5'3" or 5'4", maybe at the most.
No, but Cher is pretty
Yeah.
diminutive. And although she was doing this, what she did was she recreated her Las Vegas show. And in Vegas, she used the musicians there. I just learned her book, as they call it, to play for her in LA. And she toured that show with all the props and all the Bob Mackie gowns. And she had a funny line. She said, I'm really pissed now You're wondering why? She says, the audience. He goes, I haven't changed my outfit in 7 minutes, was one
Did,
of her lines.
did you tour with her?
I did all the LA dates, and I no, I didn't tour with her. What happened was I got called to sub for Lenny of Sha Na Na because after they did the TV show, half of the group who were originally, well, the whole group were either from Massachusetts or New York City area, came back to the East Coast, but half of them, like Screaming Scott, Jocko, Bowser, they stayed in LA. They bought homes and stayed out there
Mhm.
and toured the group from there. Well, not from there, but like, you know, that's where their management was based.
Right.
And I joined up with them after when they could tour again. So I was in Shanana off and on for a long time, a lot of grease in my head.
Hmm.
And it was a revelation. Touring when you're a band, as opposed to being what they call an act, an artist,
Hmm.
the perception is so different. When you're a band, it's like, don't stand here, don't stand there, and don't use that door, and stay away from the kitchen. When you're an act, it's like, is there anything we can do for you guys? Do you need anything? Do you want coffee, tea? You're going to rehearse at 2 o'clock? What do you tell us what you need? We'll be happy to provide it.
Well, that's what I hear. I
They're
have
the same
friends.
people. But, it always astounded me. It's the same people.
Yeah,
Yeah, anyway.
I have friends that would tour, with famous rock groups.
Yeah.
They were in the band. A particular one was a friend with Al Stewart, who did Year of the Cat. He
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily a friend, but his band members were, and they would tell me stories because they did I think between the Year of the Cat and Time Passages. I think he's still living off of that, 60 years later.
Yeah. Sure.
But
That's
but
right.
they tell me stories that they can't repeat over here.
Oh, I can imagine.
Did you go through that also?
Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I remember one time I was on the road with Shah, and back in those days, Malcolm, tours lasted a long time. You would go out anywhere from a minimum of 3 weeks to 3 months. That Midler's band went with her for 3 months. Cher, Shah, Nana, and so you were away from home for a long time. I remember one year it occurred over the holiday season. So I and Screaming Scott, we brought menorahs with us and little candles because we knew we had to do shows on the schedule that was the last 4 nights of Hanukkah. And he arranged with the promoters, and somehow, I mean, he didn't strong arm them. He just said, listen, just like two guys who play for Bon Jovi, and this is true, if they're playing somewhere and it's Hanukkah, they don't go on stage until they light the menorah backstage.
Well, how about like Yom Kippur? Did
I
you?
don't. I never really had to. I don't know if I've ever really had to work on Yom. I've had to work on Yom Kippur, but after sundown,
Yeah, well then, no,
not the
after
night
sun.
before.
I mean, after the holiday was over.
Yeah, I might have had to travel to get there while it was still daylight.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I fasted an extra hour to make up for it. You know.
Now,
So here I am in LA. It's 1972, 73, 74. In the mid to late 70s. I'm doing session work. Um, I'm not doing all of the A class stuff. I'm not playing scores for John Williams, but
mhm.
I'm sort of on the B level. All the groups and artists that want to do a demo of us, or a songwriter that needs to do a demo, or an act that's going to perform their record that they released, and they need a band to back them up locally so they could play the record, perform the record.
Yeah.
You know, um, and after Sha Na Na, I found out actually it was through Jocko. I sort of knew Mitch and Phil a little bit while the Tokens had their first big wave of success. I was only 12, Mitch was 14, but
Hmm.
I knew them. And Phil was playing one year up in the mountains. And I think he mentioned this to you, or we mentioned it when we did the show with you.
Yeah.
And I met him then. I jammed with him. After, after hours, some of the musicians would get together at some place, and after the showroom emptied out, we would just play music.
Yeah, that's what interviewing, musicians. I mean,
Yeah,
that's their life. I mean, it could be on stage, it could be after work, it could be they play music.
yeah. What I didn't know is that I didn't know Phil and Mitch were living in LA full time, and they didn't know I was living there full time. So
This was in the early 70s
92,
or 92. Okay, so this is they had I mean their big record, or to me the big one was Away, The Lion Sleeps Tonight, and that they did in 61. They recorded that.
right? But you know what? The reason Mitch and Phil first even went out to LA had nothing to do with the tokens. Christy McNichol at the time was a big TV star, and they wanted to do a record on her, and Phil wound up producing that record. And then I think he did something with Jimmy McNichol, the younger brother,
Yeah, him I haven't.
and Mitch was out there, Phil was out there, and they decided to stay. Now I had already been out there. I went out there even before they were there. So anyway, along with touring with Mitch and Phil and the Tokens for 34 years, every time I'd come back to town, um, I would let people know that I'm back in town and that, I'm off the road. If you need me, I'm here. So I started recording for other people. I played for Cher. Um, I joined Shana Na.
As a studio musician, sort of.
Uh, yeah, studio and or playing live in local venues.
Hmm.
I mean, I did the Hollywood Bowl with Shana Na.
I love the Hollywood. That's my favorite place.
Mm-hmm.
What I wish they would do when I was working at my radio station, we used to have a box at the Hollywood Bowl, where you can sit down and have your
Oh yeah, yeah,
dinner and
yeah.
have a
Have
bottle
dinner.
of wine. But truthfully, what I liked, the best seat I liked was at the very top of the Hollywood Bowl, where you could see the band shell and the mountains behind it. And I
Right.
wish they would build box seats up there.
That's high.
That's hard, but that you get the whole panoramic
Yeah.
view, and acoustically, it's still the way they build the speakers. You can still hear, and now they have the TV cameras, which on either side you can see the stage up close,
Yeah. Yeah. And
and you
then
get
they
that.
have the two big Tron, I guess, the big screens.
Yeah, the video screens, and but you see that you're in a mountain, and you see the background behind you and the stars, and of course, every once in a while you hear the fire engines coming by.
That's right. That's right.
In fact, there was one concert, I used to love classical music there, because I could close my eyes and sort of like wander. There was one, I forget who it was, but they were playing something. I think it was a Rhapsody in Blue, which is my favorite
Mm-hmm.
concerto. I mean, being a New Yorker, I
Yeah.
love that. It makes me think of, Central Park and the sun rising. But anyway, fire engines cup, and I forget who the conductor was, but he stopped the music and he said, "Let's wait till the fire engines leave." And everybody stood up and applauded him.
Funny anecdote, if I may. So I do sound check, and then I'm wandering around backstage at the Hollywood Bowl. Now, the Hollywood Bowl is exactly 8 minutes from where I lived in Studio City,
Mhm.
24 years. I never went there. For some reason, just never got to go, never took my children to see anything there until I did a show there. I'm backstage, and they have all these iconic photos of other artists who have played there, and symphony orchestra. And there's a photo of the Beatles, right? And the Beatles are on stage here, and it's all white and very massive, and it's the four of them with just two guitar amps, a Casio keyboard for John, Ringo's drums on a riser, and a bass amp, Vox, VOX. That's the ones they use, and
Mm.
that's it. So I said to one of the tech guys, I go, "Oh, is this taken like before the gear arrived? They were just sound checking." He goes, "No, that's all they had. That's what they toured with back in 64,
Mm.
65, 66. It's all they had."
Yeah, well, to tell you the truth, when I go to concerts, I like concerts where you could hear the music
Mhm.
and where you could hear the artists. So, if if he just plays the acoustic guitar and sits alone on a stage and you could hear him, maybe with a piano or or sax coming in. I don't like where they put all that sound. I can't hear it. I mean, I could hear it, but it clutters up
Right.
the real music. At
Mhm.
least to me. I mean, the kids, they go crazy.
Yeah.
But
I would say that along those lines, part of my quote success in lasting as long as I've lasted and working with the artists that I've worked with, and there's many of them. Two things. One, I've been commended more than once by artists who said to me, "You know what, Jay? We love that when you're on our shows because you know when not to play. You let the music breathe. I play in this, I have the leisure of playing an instrument that doesn't have to play all the time. So I could hear things, I could listen. And I really feel that it's a horn. I can only play one note at a time, except when I use two saxophones. But I feel if I don't play all the time, that when I do play, it makes more of an impact.
yeah.
So if I'm going to give any advice to young musicians, okay, out there who might see this, that's one piece of advice I would give. Know when not to play.
Mhm.
So when you do play, it means more.
Yeah, that's like doing interviews. It lets you talk and let the other person talk.
Sure.
Yeah,
And,
you're much better. I can't do that. I'm a talker.
and the other part,
Has your hearing been affected? Because I know a lot of rock people who basically, when they get in their 60s or 70s, their hearing's been affected because in the old days or when they were touring, they weren't aware that they have to wear earphones or earplugs, and the
mhm.
hearing is severely affected. Do you find that or?
It's funny. 1 hour before I got online with you. I was at the audiologist having my hearing checked.
Huh.
There's a little bit of high frequency loss, he told me. But that's it. Thank God. You know.
Well, I know I went to, this is about 10 years ago. I was in New York and I went to CBGB's,
Yeah.
the in the East Village. And I had to leave because the frequency was so high that my ears hurt. It wasn't, I go to a rock concert, generally, when I come out, I sort of like have that sort of like deaf tone. I don't know what you call it, but I can hear that I'm not hearing right. But this where my hearing actually hurt.
Mhm.
I had to leave. Now I don't know whether that was age or whatever,
I
but I
thought there was some type of misconception in the late 60s through the 70s, early 80s with like the big, well known bands. And there was always a misconception, I felt, that when they played loud, it would make the music better, but it didn't.
no.
Like it damaged their ears. And no one really told them this. No one really said, hey, this is not right. This is not good for you. You're going to suffer for this. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but 10 years from now, this is going to catch up with you.
Mm. So, well, by the way, I just wanted to ask you once, how was which I thought about, how was Cher to work with? Was she nice? Did she have with the people in the band, or was she
Really down to earth.
really?
For example, she would start her show with a film of her and Sonny. And there's a section where the camera in the film just focuses on her and she comes through the screen. That's how she made her entrance. So
Huh.
that, you know, um, and we're on stage, we're waiting, everything's set, everything's ready, but nothing's happening. And we hear this little voice from backstage, and we know it's her because we could tell. And she shouts, "Play the fucking film!" She wanted to get out there already.
Yeah. She seems to be, I know people who know her personally.
Yeah,
She also seems to be this sweet person, nice person who on stage is who she is.
yeah, that's right.
And I mean she has this great where she I think she had this great relationship with Sonny, and it comes out in the shows. But anyway, believe it or not, our half hour is up. Is there
Oh,
anything you would like to promote coming up, in the near future where we're going into the summer now? Are you going to go back to the Catskills?
no, I'm coming to Los Angeles to do two shows in July with the Tokens,
Uh-huh. Okay.
and then coming back again in August to do three shows again with the
With the
Tokens.
tokens or
Yeah,
that's Phil's son, Noah.
Phil's son Noah, me, and our new lead singer is Phil's grandson,
Wow.
Noah's son, and our keyboard player is Phil's nephew. So it's sort of still Token-esque.
Okay.
As
Well, let me know because I live in Sherman Oaks in Los
oh,
Angeles.
you're in Shyman's Oaks,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah. We were when you said you were in Studio City, we're neighbors.
That's right. That's right.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
It was enlightening. And
Great.
tell your friends about it. Again, you're going to be on malcolmpresents.com.
Hmm.
The show is up close and personal,
All
and
right.
you just go look at that, and you look at the date, and you'll see your name in bright lights.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a schedule that you post of shows?
I have it. You go to malcolmpresents.com.
Oh,
And
right.
then I have like 4 or 5 shows running right now,
Okay.
different shows.
Yeah.
But you go to up close and personal, and you'll be listed. They have actually I have shows. Well, no, I don't have Phil show. I have Phil show in another section.
Yeah.
But I have his sister on there,
Yep.
Maxine
Yeah.
and she has a show called Tush Twins, which is basically growing up in Brighton Beach and Coney
Sure.
Island during I
Or in
guess it'd be
Russell.
the 80s and 90s.
Hmm. Yeah. You also have Many Shades of Green.
Many Shades of Green, which is actually that's right now where all it is audio. I have
Oh,
old shows that are video.
okay.
Many Shades of Green, which is basically about saving the planet. I have another show called Malcolm and We.
I was just going to ask you, what is that?
Malcolm and We is a show. There's a group called We the World,
Oh,
which basically supports people who are trying to improve the planet.
oh,
And I have people on the show that are trying to,
oh.
trying in a small way and a big way to save planet Earth.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And it's a huge task because we are really screwing this up. And I don't know whether it's too late or not. I mean, just go outside and see, listen to the daily weather report
Sure.
and see what's happening around the world. And of course, in Los Angeles, we're having the forest fires that are enormous. And back east, you're having floods and hurricanes.
Every day, you really, literally, you don't know what to expect.
Right. And then it's not only
What
in
you
this
wake up
state, it's worldwide. So
Yeah,
again, as I always say, the
global.
planet's Earth will survive.
Hmm.
Man on Earth might not
Might
survive.
not.
Well, sorry to leave on a sour note,
Well,
but
no. Let's leave on a nice up
right.
note.
But what it is, I'll go after I leave the show. I'm going to go over and play "The Lion Sleeps Tonight"
All right.
and
And I'm going to
smile.
go and take out my flute and play some Whimmerways for you.
You got it, kid.
Okay.
Thanks again. And by the way, tell your friends about the show.
All right.
Tell
Oh,
people
sure.
who aren't your
Now
friends
that I'm
about the
on
show.
it,
Yeah.
of course I will.
And we'll have you back in a few months and see how things are going.
Okay.
Okay. Ciao.
Great. Bye bye. Keep rocking.